UConn is always going to UConn. They're going to get the players coming in that they need.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
the health part. It's having a healthy team that is going to be key. Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I am Alicia J, and of course, I'm here with Ashley Nicole Moss. How are you, Ashley?
I'm sad.
Why are we sad?
I had this really dope cup of coffee that I wanted to have on the show and sip while we talked about all the amazing things we have planned for today's show. It was the new Pecan Crunch Oat Milk Latte from Starbucks, which is my jam. I love it more than pumpkin spice. And I'm at my parents' house and I'm walking up the stairs with my latte, my laptop in my other hand, and I missed a step or I tripped going up the steps. Not quite sure how it happened. And the coffee went everywhere. So no coffee for me. So yeah, that's where we are.
That is definitely something to be sad about. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I thought it was going to be about the New York teams, but we don't even need to add on to it.
About that, Alicia, but thanks for piling that on.
No, it's
it's not a good time to be a Yankees fan right now. Really, the Knicks it's a long season. I'm not getting too high too low.
It's early.
The Yankees are breaking my heart game by game, and there's one tonight. So if you text me and I don't respond, it's because I'm crying in my bathtub. But luckily, there's no baseball on today's show. What do we have, though?
No, we do have a lot, and we're going to have fun today, Ashley. We're going to lift your spirits because we're going to talk about the USWNT that has been back in action with one player's debut shining above the rest. So we're definitely going to talk about that. WNBA coaching moves have been the talk of the offseason. It is wild how many moves have been made. So we're going to get into that. The women's college basketball season is about to start. We're going to talk about the teams to watch, the ones we're excited about. I just can't wait preseason obviously has started, but I just can't wait to get into that regular season with all the moves that have been made in different conferences and stuff. So that's going to be amazing to talk about. I sat down with Oksana Masters. It was an amazing conversation, and we will be showing a little bit of that in here. And of course, we'll have the full interview for you like we always have on our YouTube channel. So tune in for that. And then we have a little Halloween fun at the end, Ashley. Both of us are going to talk about our favorite costumes. So can't wait to do that because I know mine. I definitely love the one that I had. So I can't wait to share it. I can't wait to see yours either.
Listen, before we get into all of that good stuff, we just want to remind you to go ahead and make sure you are following us on all of our social channels, whether that's individually, collectively. Make sure you have your notifications turned on when it comes to YouTube. So you're subscribed, notifications on, because we post so much amazing content directly to our YouTube page. And if you are someone who doesn't like to watch their pods, but instead likes to listen to them, you like your hands free, your eyes free, we got you covered. Scan this QR code, and we will pop up wherever you get your podcast. And that's on Spotify and on Apple. So there's no reason to not be tapped in with us right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
Yeah, definitely tap in because, sports is going nonstop year round. When one thing ends, the other thing picks back up. And one thing that we're going to be talking about right now is the USWNT. Emma Sears, she did her thing, right? During the international break, the USWNT has taken home wins over Iceland in the first 2 of 3 friendlies. And Sunday's game marked the debut of Emma Sears, an NWSL rookie who earned her very first national team call-up at any level in this window. In her debut, Sears became the 23rd USWNT player to score a goal in their debut, which is huge, and also assisted in another goal. She's the first player to record a goal and an assist in their USWNT debut since Kristen Press in 2013. And Emma Sears plays for Racing Louisville. She leads all rookies with 5 goals this NWSL season. So she's had a stellar season, just the fourth player in USWNT history to have a goal and assist and debut. And she said afterwards that it was super surreal, for this is my first moment with this team, and it's incredible. Um, Also, Emma Hayes, who obviously is the coach of the team, said that she liked her intention, and that, her being direct was a good thing. So, one thing that I wanted to point out too is that, we've talked about in the past when it comes to, any kind of US national team that, often there is an order of things, or you've been in the system before. And in this case, she actually was not involved in any of the youth national camps. So despite doing that, Emma still saw, what she has done, what she's doing, and she called her up. And I just thought that was fantastic, as well, because, if anything we've seen, Emma is going to do what it takes to win, despite, rules, or just the way that things are done, or actually being in that system before. And she definitely did that with Sears for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to a good coach, right? Sometimes, you have players for whatever reason, or reasons not being able to go through the order of things and the way that things are done usually and have been done in the past. I think it's a testament of a really good coach to still be able to see the talent and the way that a player can contribute in a current space despite that, and I don't think that players should be penalized for not going through the normal order of things if they have all the other criterias that you look for in a player on a specific team, whatever that sport may be. So shout out to Emma Hayes for kind of going against the grain, if you will, and saying like, look, I know she hasn't done X, Y, and Z, but she has X, Y, and Z, and that's going to help you win games and tournaments and all sorts of things. So shout out to her. That's again a testament of a really good coach.
Yeah, and also she's obviously been doing amazing things in the NWSL. So just a shout out to her in general,
Yeah,
because it's hard
sure.
to be a rookie and come in and contribute in the ways that she already has, and then to be called up in the way that she was for this team. Friendlies, there's a lot of reasons why you play friendlies, but one of them is to try new things out, see what works, and that kind of thing. And she certainly came in, especially in that particular match when they were coming back from a deficit, right? So
Mhm.
just to see that in itself, and then to see how she came in and contributed right away, fantastic. Love to see it on every level. She's definitely really humble when it comes to this. Um, she is a really fantastic player, has shown it time and time again. And I just love that she got the opportunity to come in and just show who she was right away.
Yeah. Listen, I'm glad you mentioned um change and doing things differently and going against the grain because the WNBA is
My
definitely
goodness.
doing some things differently. They are making a lot of moves. In case you have been out of the loop, you have missed a lot. Okay. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. It seems that the WNBA is beefing with almost every single head coach in the league because once again, we had some coaches part ways with their teams. Now, on Sunday, the Indiana Fever announced that they have parted ways with head coach Christy Sides after 2 seasons. She had 2 seasons remaining on a 4-year contract. Now, this comes after the Fever, for the first time since 2016, led by Caitlin Clark, made the playoffs. So everybody was taken aback by this. It shook a lot of people on WNBA Twitter. And on Sunday, Sides posted to social media, quote, leave it better than you found it. She sure did, which again has people scratching their heads. Why would you fire your head coach who made the team better than she found it? Multiple outlets have since reported that Connecticut Sun coach Stephanie White, who also is no longer with the team that she was the head coach of, is in discussions with the Fever to return as the team's next head coach. And on Monday, the team announced, like I said, that they would be parting ways with White. Let's just run through some of these notes because there's a lot to dive into here. Now, White is an Indiana native. She played at Purdue, played for the Fever from 2000 to 2004, and then later joined the team's coaching staff in 2011. So there is a history there. in terms of the franchise, the organization, the front office, if there are still people within the front office who were from her tenure as a player. She was an assistant coach for the Fever's 2012 WNBA title winning team, and in 2015 was named head coach, helping the Fever to the finals before leaving to coach Vanderbilt in 2016. And again, this is part of a larger movement in the WNBA. 7 teams in the market for new head coaches. Now, also, there are expansion teams. So you can take that 7 and add 2 because those are 2 teams that are still looking for their head coaches. Didn't have head coaches, obviously, because they're expansion teams. They're starting from the ground up. A lot of people would be one more. Sorry, let me go ahead and cover this as well. Cheryl Reeve, longest tenured coach in the WNBA. Every WNBA franchise other than Minnesota has had at least 4 head coaches during her tenure. Just want to put that out there as well to kind of put that into perspective on how much movement has been in this league. Obviously, some head scratchers, Alicia. I think that again, Coach Christie's size was something that a lot of people were taken aback by. Obviously, I think Stephanie White, also the Connecticut Sun, a phenomenal team. They're always in contention when you talk about the playoffs, at least these past few seasons. You wonder about that as well. I know a lot of people were confused about that decision as well. I mean, first and foremost, all the movement. What do you make of it? We'll dive into maybe some of the reasons why, but first, let's start there.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of movement. I think the only thing that's shocking to me is maybe the high number right now of movement,
Right.
but we all know at the end of the season there's always some type of movement, right? But when you look at the league and what the league has done this year and where they're at, there's a spotlight on the league. And
Mhm.
while there obviously were some amazing teams, some great teams, you look at what Las Vegas has done, how they set the precedent in a lot of different ways. You have a league where all eyes are on every team now, where
Mhm.
it should have been all along. And so when you have that, those teams have to step it up, have to step it up in every single way. We're not just going to settle for good. Everybody is trying to be great. Everybody is looking to be great. Not only is the investment huge in the WNBA right now, but the eyes, the fans, we saw record numbers of people watching it. And so you can't settle for mediocre at all anymore. You have to look at how you can improve, and from the GM to the coach, from the players on the team to even building training facilities. Every team is kind of like in a competition to see who's going to build the best one there. And then you have these 2 teams coming in that have the money, they have the mindset,
Mhm.
they're going to have whole new teams and be able to pick from free agents and have a whole different draft and all of these types of things. So when you look at all of that and you put it in a bowl, people are like, we have to make changes right now and we have to make them fast. And so, for example, I worked at the Golden State Warriors for years. We had years where we were really good and years where we were really not so great. Um, in the years when we weren't so great, as somebody who worked in game operations, nobody really paid attention to what we did at all. But
Mhm.
then when we were really good, we had people telling us what we should be doing, telling us that we needed to improve in certain areas, or even saying that something was really good that we had done for years that nobody paid attention to before. So in this case, when you look at the league, everybody has to step it up, and that comes with new coaching staff, new GMs, new player, everything. And you
Mhm.
see all of that movement happening right now. Now, some of them don't really make sense to us, but a record may not reflect what the coach has in a relationship with players or what they have. There's so many layers to being a coach that's not necessarily the record at the end of the day. So I'm not saying this happened, but you could have a player come at the end in their exit interviews or whatever and say that I think we need these changes, and that could reflect, especially coming from a player that's like a Caitlin Clark or something, that could reflect in a big change. I'm not saying she
Mhm.
did that, but it's part of what happens in this business. So I say all that to say there is a huge spotlight on the WNBA now, and everybody is having to step up. And that's why I think a lot of these changes are being made because, I mean, the league is 144 of the best players in the world. The teams are now coming to actually invest in the ways that they're supposed to invest, and that is going to be in some huge changes in what we're seeing now. So I'm not surprised at the changes, but maybe just that so many are happening at once, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
but it'll
Um,
be really interesting to see who they, look to. I mean, we've already seen one huge coaching change in Natalie Nakase when it comes to she's going to be the head coach of the Valkyries. And she obviously was under Coach Hammond I mean, she's had a really long career, but under Coach Hammond, and she's learned all of those things. So it'll be really interesting to see how that changes. And I think we'll see a lot of that in the coming times too, is like looking at these assistants that have really learned a lot. They understand kind of like the new ways of coaching, what is going to be new in this league and how it's going to be pushed forward. I think we're going to see a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my only concern is whenever you make a coaching change, especially when you are a team that has done well in the postseason, and for all intents and purposes, the Fever went from a team that a lot of people didn't think was going to make the playoffs to first making the playoffs to making the playoffs for the first time since 2016. I think that one of the things that when we were talking about like the Liberty and when we were talking about the Aces, one of the reasons I think that they've been so successful in some way, shape, or form, obviously the Liberty are coming off of their championship. The Aces have won some multiple championships. I think one of the reasons outside of the talent, I think it's the continuity and the chemistry and just the constant defining foundation that they have, and they're able to work through whatever issues that they have because there's a familiarity there, right? Chemistry is the hardest thing to buy on a basketball team or on any sports team. And I think that my only concern sometimes is that teams, in an effort to compete with other teams in a league where it's not necessarily just strictly like, okay, you take this coach out and you plug this coach in, and now you guys are on the same playing field. The Aces and the Fever are tiers apart. So you changing I'm just using them as an example. The Aces and the Fever are tiers apart. So you changing your head coach in your mind to compete with the Aces doesn't make you compete with them. There's a level of talent that just doesn't is not the same. And that's no knock to the Fever. We're talking about, a lot more veteran, established, just the creme de la creme of players on one specific team versus a team that's still young, going through, their movement and things like that. So I feel like sometimes teams don't really think about the benefit of growing with a specific coach. I think that, again, to your point, there could be things behind the scenes that we're unaware of, but just looking at it from what we know, I don't know if I feel that changing a coach who just brought you to the playoffs for the first time in almost 10 years. I don't know. To me, that kind of, if I'm a player and nobody on the team asked for this, and again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, I'm a little like, damn, well, now we're starting from ground zero with somebody we don't know, we don't have any relationship with. Um, and that brings me to the point of, talking about Stephanie White, because there is a relationship there that could be beneficial in that transition if that's ultimately the direction that the Fever end up going with. Obviously, again, she's somebody who was part of the organization for a multitude of years as a player, as a coach. Now, that doesn't mean that the front office and everything in, front office operations is the same, but we are talking about someone who probably understands how things go in Indiana, which will then make that transition a lot easier. So, do you think that that's kind of the perfect fit, especially with such a drastic change that they made kind of out of left field?
I think she's a great fit, obviously, and she does have strong relationships with some of the players. She's already very familiar with them, and um, when you talk about chemistry, I think that chemistry would be there,
Mhm.
from the beginning. I do want to point out though that a lot of people criticized Christy Sides during the season, especially in that first half, of not utilizing the players that she had in the correct ways and manners. And while they did end in a certain way, um, not everyone was happy with her the whole season. So I can kind of get where people are coming from with that in a way, especially when it came to utilizing Caitlin Clark. Of course, she had her transition into the league, but so I can kind of see why and how it could have came, even though they did make the playoffs for the first time in forever. I can kind of see how that kind of like residual was still there from that first part of the season. But when it comes to White, I definitely think that she could be a fantastic coach for that team, for any team for that matter. I think there was some reports of some personal things that she's working through that may be a reason why she wouldn't personally take the job. But I could definitely see her going into that role and executing right away.
Yeah.
Um,
I honestly I think it would be for people who, came down on Christie's sides during that first half of the Indiana season. I thought that was I mean, yeah, in hindsight, there are different things that you can call in real time, but you're talking about a relatively very young team
yeah,
with probably the most polarizing player that we have in the WNBA who came off of a whirlwind of a past, what, 4 months. I mean, you have to kind of let her gradually find her footing. And I think that people were a little bit tough on how she was utilizing or not utilizing Caitlin Clark, because I think that there are a lot of other factors that you have to consider when you have somebody who went from college, draft, training camp, WNBA season. We're not talking about a sophomore, junior, someone going into their fourth year. We're talking about I was just playing with college kids 3 months prior. So you kind of got to wean her in carefully. But I mean, I think that again, to your point, in order to compete, you have to make changes that you need to go ahead and do that. Some are more head scratching than others, but ultimately you have to trust that the people in the front office know what they're doing. And ultimately, when the WNBA season resumes next year, we'll see if those changes are pros or cons, and then we'll be having a drastically different conversation. But what is coming up is college basketball season, which I'm very excited about, Alicia.
yeah, I'm super excited about it. And, as we go into the season, we just wanted to talk about 5 teams that we were looking at that we think you should look at in this upcoming season. And let's just tip it off with South Carolina. I mean, how could you
Mm.
not? How could you not? They're the reigning national champs, went undefeated last season. There's so many players to watch, including Malaysia Wiley, which is one of my favorites. And it's crazy because she is one of the sophomore. There's a lot of sophomores to watch out for this year in women's college basketball, which makes me even more excited because with all these sophomores that are stars and standouts, we have a lot of amazing basketball to watch in the coming years, in this year and the coming years. So,
Mhm.
but why are you specifically excited? I mean, obviously, they are the reigning champs. They were undefeated last year. I saw that Coach Staley said that they are kind of above where the team last year was at this time, which really made me excited because anything that Coach Staley says is pretty like her word is bond. So if she's saying that, we have a lot of great South Carolina basketball to watch. But why are you specifically excited about this team?
I'm excited about this team because I'm excited to see how they continue their reign with the changes that have happened in women's college basketball. I think for a long time they were so drastically head and shoulders above other teams, and I think now we have started to see different programs get better, get more competitive, get as much star power as you see in South Carolina, be as constant, be as have as much chemistry as a unit as you see in South Carolina. I'm not saying they're on Dawn Staley's level, but be just as well coached as South Carolina. And I think that's going to make it really exciting when South Carolina goes against, a USC or an Iowa or any of these teams, because I think that we're starting, just like we're seeing the changing of the guard happen in the WNBA. When we were talking about this, when we were talking about how the Aces don't look as unbeatable as they have in previous seasons, and that ultimately ends up being true. They're not the reigning champs this year, right? I think you start to see that shift happen in college basketball, which is very exciting for me as a college basketball fan, because I think that, and I can say this on both sides, more so on the women's side than the men's side, because I think the men, are kind of a little bit more lagged when it comes to this. I like seeing not the usual suspects in the Elite Eight, in the Final Four. I like seeing the difference. So it's going to be really fun to see Dawn Staley and South Carolina. Everyone's going to be coming for the crown. Everyone's going to be aiming for the king or the queen in this case. How are you going to respond? That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to them answering that too, because that's a team that doesn't back down.
Right.
They're
I
like,
know.
"We are
That's what's going to be
here."
fun.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun to see that. Another team that we're looking forward to is USC. I mean, Juju
Heck yeah.
Watkins, any team that has Juju on it, okay, I'd be looking forward to, because she is a generational player, fantastic on every level. But they've also had some really key people come in from the transfer portal. Kiki Iriafen is definitely one of them. And then you have TVO from Oregon State, which I'm really excited to see her play on this team. I mean, it's going to be really phenomenal to have them in the Big Ten as well. That whole redistribution of teams and players is going to be really interesting to watch. Ashley, what about USC? Are you really excited about this
I'm
year?
so excited about this team. I got a chance to interview Kiki and Juju at Big Ten Media Day. And one, they absolutely love the transition to the Big Ten, and they feel like this is going to make them a more competitive team, just going against this level of talent that's in this conference. I also love the relationship between Kiki and Juju. I asked Kiki, obviously making um the transition into this team as a graduate student, what that was going to be like for her, and what was that chemistry building like. And I even said this to her. You saw her and Juju just walking around. They were attached to the hip the entire day, and they're just a really close knit unit. Obviously, Juju, all eyes are going to be on her. I think with Caitlin now in the WNBA, I think she is the most famous college basketball player in both men and women's collegiate basketball. So obviously USC is going to have so many eyes on them. They had so many eyes last season and she was just a freshman. I'm just really excited to see how they take that and run with it. It's going to be a phenomenal year for Juju and her development, but just the team as a whole. I really believe, and the girls really believe, because I asked them this, that this is a team that if you want to go ahead and win a national championship, you got to run through them first. And I'm excited to see that.
I know that's right. I
Yeah.
know that's right.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about UConn. All right. So, UConn, obviously, we got Paige back. We're very excited about this. So many other amazing people that we can go ahead and dive into. Alicia, I'll let you do that, but I'm going to go ahead and just run through some of the notes real quick. Obviously, we have some people, some teams, or rather, girls on the team returning from injury. We have incoming freshman class that's pretty strong. Number one recruit in her class, Sarah Strong, that is. So questions around Mark and what this team can do lies if they can stay healthy. Obviously, this is a UConn team that's extremely, extremely talented. But as we have seen, some way, shape, or form at some part of this season, things go really, really bad for the Huskies. And obviously that's going to be a huge task for them to overcome. You can never go ahead and determine or predict the health of a player, the health of a team, but you want to do whatever you can do to make sure that when it comes to March, you are in your healthiest position possible. And Coach Gino actually spoke about Paige recently, and he said, quote, if for whatever reason we don't win a national championship this year, she'll feel like I'm the best player to ever play at Connecticut that didn't win a national championship. Alicia, UConn,
Whew.
what are you feeling? It's
I'm
heavy. It feels heavy. The energy feels heavy.
It does feel heavy, and you said it, it's the injuries.
Yeah,
A healthy UConn is a dangerous UConn. Like, I mean, they're just gonna come back and just be wrecking shop, if they're firing on all cylinders health-wise. AZ Fudd, like, coming back is huge, would be huge for the team.
for sure.
Um And then obviously, Sarah Strong, the number one recruit, like you mentioned, in the 2024 class, having her on, UConn is always going to UConn. They're going to get the players coming in that they need,
Yeah,
but it's the
absolutely.
health part. It's having a healthy team that is going to be key to get, you know, uh, to get her that championship that she hasn't had, to get Paige that championship. So it's really gonna depend on the health. I'm excited to see them play. I mean, they were in the Final Four last year. They lost to Iowa. They were in the Final Four, and it was a great game. I mean, it was,
Great game.
a
Down
really
to the wire.
down to the wire. And so,
Yeah.
having those healthy players is going to be key. But regardless, super excited to watch this team, as we are every year to watch UConn. But it's the health. That's what it's going to come down to.
Another team we're really excited to watch is Stanford. Obviously, this is the home to our girl Cameron Brink, and this is a new era for them. Their head coach retired after 38 seasons, and now it's the first season with Kate Payne as the head coach. Also, they joined the ACC, so this is going to be interesting. Rest in peace to the Pac-12, by the way. Just pour one out.
Listen,
Pour one out for the
that
Pac-12. um Kate had been an assistant for a long time, and they said, quote, she's got to learn from my mistakes for a long time. I think that's a good thing. That's what Coach Tara had said about the new head coach coming in. Obviously, the changes we were talking about, just having, a stable foundation whenever you're a team, and not being able to buy chemistry, not being able to buy relationships, that just comes with time. It's going to be interesting how this Stanford team, 40 years or 40 seasons, excuse me, is a very long time to be head coach of a particular program. You've seen a lot of talent come and go. You have talent that comes back for your new girls to educate them, to give them free game, whether it's on the court, off the strength solely of your relationship with them. That's no longer there. How do you think Stanford's going to battle against that essentially?
Well, if you look at the team, and obviously not having Cameron Brink on the team anymore is like a huge void.
Right.
They do have some things that they have to plug in and do differently this year on many levels, including being under a new head coach, especially after such an amazing coach that was there before. It's going to be so hard to live up to that. But it will be interesting to see. They're outside of the AP top 25 poll. So they're definitely not kind of like ranked high, but it will
Mhm.
be interesting to see how Coach Pay, steps up to that. And how she uh orchestrates what she has on the team to compete in this new conference that they're in. And
Right.
that itself is going to be something to
And the
watch.
ACC is tough. The ACC
Yeah,
is tough.
definitely tough, and it will definitely be interesting to see how, they compete in the ACC and how they just raise to, I guess, the occasion of being a new team in so many different ways. Um, I think there'll be a lot of adjustment, obviously, but it's definitely a team to watch just for that alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of a team to watch, we're going to go ahead and head to Texas. I know that Kevin Durant's going to be excited about this. There are a bunch of players to watch. Alicia, I'm going to let you run through them because I know you're very excited about this team. But one name I do want to point out, Rory Harmon is returning. The team has increased depth at the point guard position. Also, freshman Jordan Lee and Justice Carlton, excuse me, could be impact players. And additionally, Brianna Preston has earned high praise from Vic Schaefer, saying, quote, sometimes I look at Preston and think she's going to be Rory on steroids. She probably doesn't have Rory's range right now on her shot, but man, everything else, the dog, the fight, the intensity, the defensive quickness, that is what you really want. Alicia, how you feeling about Texas?
Well, listen, you just named a whole bunch of the players that I was going to name, but what I will say, and this is it, I'm biased in a big way when
Mhm.
it comes to Texas. They're number 4 on the AP top 10, 25 poll, but I think they should be higher. I will be watching every game because my little sis, Jordan Lee, there she is right there. She's Jordan and Sophia. They are my little sisters. And so I'm very biased. Okay. So just anyone listening to this, I'm going to be watching Texas like a hawk because of Jordan being on the team, but super proud of her. I used to, so their dad, Coach Lee, well, I'm gonna call him coach out of, respect, but Coach Lee, he's my coach in college. And so I actually babysat them and have, yeah, back in
Stop.
the day, like when they were, I'm talking about babies, like I was babysitting them. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
yeah, and then they, over the years, obviously we've just stayed close. So I really consider both of them my little sisters. Sophia Lee, who you also saw in that photo, she plays for Sac State. Super proud of both of them. Jordan was ranked ninth in the 2024 class going in, and she won a gold medal with USA basketball, the U18 team in the summer. So super proud of her. Cannot wait to watch every single game this season because I'm just so proud of her. And the team is stacked too. Like, let,
Stacked. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, completely stacked. So yes, completely biased, but Texas is one to watch, period. And shout out to Jordan Lee. Love you.
I know
So
that's
proud of
right.
you.
I know
So
that's
proud of you.
right.
But Iowa, let's talk about Iowa. Let's get into
Yeah.
Iowa. Why are you excited for some Iowa basketball this year? It's definitely going to be different without
Yeah.
Caitlin for sure. But why is Iowa one to watch?
Well, I mean, you mentioned part of it right there, right? I think whenever you have a player of Caitlin's magnitude leave the program, you're always watching to see how they come back after that, right? A lot of teams that can, or um, organizations or schools, programs that can make or break them. Sometimes it takes them a long time to recover from losing a player of that magnitude. But I spoke to Lucy Olson and I spoke to Hannah Stolke also at Big Ten Media Day, and they are so ready to fight that fight. And they're so ready to prove that Iowa, yes, Caitlin Clark, phenomenal, amazing. We all know this. But there's so much more of this Iowa program than just Caitlin Clark. There's so much more talent on this roster than just Caitlin Clark. And sometimes when you have a player whose light is that bright, you can you tend to ignore all the surrounding pieces around it. And that's not any knock to Caitlin. Her star is that bright. But I think that a lot of the players on this team are excited to show that yes, she was successful, the team was successful, but it wasn't just because of her. And Caitlin's very much still involved with the program. Hannah says that she's always texting her, "Did you get in the gym? Did you get in the gym? Are you in the gym? Are you doing?" And the same thing with Lucy, that
Coach Clark.
they're constantly exchanging advice, and she's always available if she has any questions and anything like that. So Caitlin is very much still in tune with Iowa. And I think that this is going to be a fun team to watch because of just all the remaining pieces that are still there, the talent that's still there. And I think that people will now be able to really absorb it with Caitlin being in the W and not on this team anymore.
Well, we're just going to see, right? Like, definitely one to watch. We will be tuning in for the entire women's basketball college season, and we'll be talking about it right here on We Need to Talk Now because how could we not? It is going to be
Absolutely.
exciting on every single level.
And speaking of special, we have a very special interview between our very own Alicia J here and para Olympian Oksana Masters. And this is something that I can't wait to watch. Alicia, tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Man, I mean, it was inspiring. She has a story of overcoming so many things in her life to even get to where she is, to even get here
Mhm.
to the US was just a story in itself. And her story is a testament to, using everything that you have for your purpose, and turning even pain into purpose. And she has just done that in every way. She's obviously a decorated Paralympian, and it was just an honor to sit down and talk with her about her path.
I love it. I can't wait to watch it. Roll it.
Today, I have a very special guest. She's an Olympic champion, a multi sport Paralympian who has been in both the summer and winter games. Wow. Please welcome to the show, Oksana Masters. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey guys, I'm so excited. Thank you guys. I'm so excited.
Man, we love obviously talking about women's sports. And when I think about the Paralympics, I think about you first and foremost because of everything that you've accomplished. As we said, you're a 19-time Paralympic medalist. Looking back on this journey, what would Oksana now say to the younger Oksana that was growing up to be who you are today?
Oh my gosh. I think little Oksana now, or what I'd say to her, or her thinking about where I am now, just thank God you followed that. Because at that time, I had an opportunity when I found out about the Paralympic Games and representing Team USA. I didn't make the team. And I was just told, you're too small. You're never going to be an athlete. It's an unrealistic place for you to look for something else that you can be good at. And thank God I never listened to that person, that every single no, every single dorm slammed, or every time I experienced failure first over success, to just keep persevering and never giving up. And even though I do struggle with and little Oksana, that's where I think I could take a little bit of her into me now, because I believed in myself and believed in my dreams so much, even when I was sometimes the only one outside of my mom. And now, like, I still struggle with a little bit of self-doubt being at that level now, and I think just you did it. I think just you did it because you didn't give up.
You certainly didn't give up. And I actually really appreciate the transparency that you just had, saying that you still have a little bit of self doubt, even after 19, Paralympic medals. Like, what would you tell somebody out there that has self doubt? You've talked about failure kind of fueling you.
Mhm.
What advice would you give them? For just like me, if I had self doubt, what would you say to me?
I think it's really important to recognize, not to just eliminate self-doubt entirely, because it can be a really good motivator, but it's a healthy dose of self-doubt, and don't just live in that moment of, I don't think I can. What if I fail? And that's it. And that's all you're feeding yourself. But always pay attention to that. Like, there's that saying, but what if you succeed? What if you do it and achieve it? And so look at that self doubt as just in the way of like nerves, when I'm so nervous on the start line, too, of just, it means something to you. You want to do well and it means something to you. You love it. It's just, do not, is keep that fine line of having it, that motivation for you. Do not compare your timeline to where you want to be and go compared to the people next to you. Because I think a lot of my self-doubt, that's what it kind of came from. For me, my journey wasn't making the first Paralympic team, getting my first gold medal right on my first try. And I always compared myself to, like, well, I'm just not good enough. It's to just keep believing. We're all human. We're all gonna have self-doubt, regardless if you are Serena Williams or just starting. You're going to have it. It's natural. And it just means that it means something to you. So don't run from it. Just keep it healthy.
In your journey with your mom, coaches, you talked about your fiance. Uh, to this point in your journey, how important has that support system been to you?
Oh my gosh. I would not be here without that support system. There's that support system that's your family that needs to believe in you. But it's a little bit different when you have a support system that's not your family that believes in you. And I have, I know what it's like to not have it and to have it. And when you have I will definitely say, like, would not be the athlete that I am and would not be able to be as successful I am without the full support system. And that most recent, well, since 2018, but recently, I have felt this so much with Toyota, because in the road race for cycling and hand cycling for me specifically, I injured myself in my hand. So because of my hand dexterities, I compete in a sport where, in a classification where girls consideration for their classifications only for below the knees, or like below their hips and their amputations. I'm technically a quad competing in a non-quad class because of my dexterity. And when I injured my hand 2 years ago, I Toyota never left my side from 2018 when I broke my elbow, and they still were there by my side when there was a chance I might not go to the Paralympic Games, the Winter Games, and they stood by my side again in 2 seasons ago in the winter season and helped me. They were a huge part of me getting to that start line in Paris because they custom made a grip for me through TRD that would allow me to be the best athlete I could be, and that just shows, like, I for a brand like Toyota that truly is in their DNA, because everyone thinks that, like, "Oh, Toyota, a car company," but it's when you think about it, like, it enhances our mobility. Cars are helping us to get from point A to B and connecting us to families or taking you to that place that you need to, like, just unwind and get away from sometimes your friends and stuff, and it it's in their DNA to enhance mobility, and they understand the power of movement, and they've been a huge, huge support system for me through all of my Paralympic Games since 2018, but also just in general as someone who understands what freedom of movement means to me, and not just me, but to all Paralympic athletes and making it accessible. So when I think about that support system, I cannot think about them because and not acknowledge that because I would not be the athlete that I am without their support and being part of my team.
Well, you talk about being part of your team.
I mean, what an incredible, just inspiring, just overall. And that was just a clip that we obviously can't play the whole thing. The show will be too long. So make sure you head over to our YouTube page and see the entire conversation between Alicia and Oksana. Alicia, any final parting words before we move on to our next subject?
No, the only thing I would say in addition to her story is that we just really need to support the Paralympics more
Mm,
than we do. There was a
well
huge
said.
uptick in that this year, and
Yeah.
people absolutely, they covered it differently. We definitely saw it more, and that's great. I love that. But we need to increase it even more because what these athletes are doing every year is just incredible. And we should be supporting them just like we do any other sport, any other competition, any of that. And we must do it. And I think that's what I want to add on. I mean, you see what she's done as a Paralympian. There are so many amazing athletes that are just defying the odds every day and achieving in their sport in ways that, like, literally is just, it's outstanding, but also just incredible to see. And so we just need to make sure that we are connecting with that sport and make sure that we are doing everything that we can to support it. And speaking of connecting, we are now at our favorite segment, and that is Connecting Changes Everything, presented by AT&T. So, Ashley, this week we are connecting everyone with Spanish forward Jenni Hermoso, who made history becoming the first woman to receive the Socrates Award at the Ballon d'Or ceremony. It came as her teammate Bonmati won her second consecutive award. The Socrates Award is meant to acknowledge humanitarian work by a
Hmm.
champion soccer player and was first handed out in 2022. So she received the award, Hermoso received the award for spearheading the Se Cabo campaign, which came in the wake of Hermoso being kissed without her consent. And
Oh,
we
wow.
all remember this. It was just wild.
Hmm.
But kissed without her consent by the Spanish Federation, then Spanish Federation President Luis Rubiales during Spain's World Cup winners ceremony, taking to social media Hermoso's message in which she said that I feel the need to report this incident because I believe no person in any work, sports, or social setting should be a victim of these types of non consensual behaviors. I felt vulnerable and a victim of an impulse driven sexist, out of place act without any consent on my part. Simply put, I was not respected, Hermoso wrote. Her message was supported by thousands of female players around the world under the hashtag Se Acabo, which means it's over in Spanish. In the wake of that statement, 53 Spanish players, including all 23 members of the World Cup squad, signed a petition in support of Hermoso and refused to play for the national team until action was taken. Rubiales has since been banned from all soccer-related activity, as he should be, by FIFA for the next 3 years. And I think it should be on 3 years, but that's just my personal opinion. So, speaking about the award, Hermoso said, "This award is not just mine. It belongs to all my colleagues. We work for women's football and the new generations. Today, I woke up with the words of a girl who told me she wanted to be like me. That girl deserves football to be free, without gender violence. As footballers, we are all in a unique position. I ask you not to stop inspiring on and off the field. This is the dream that this girl and all of them deserve." So just hearing all of that, what are your thoughts on her receiving this award?
I mean, well deserved. I think that in the US, we had the Me Too movement that really shook the industry of, entertainment, Hollywood. And I think that spawned a lot of other type of movements that have a similar tone to them. And I think that we're seeing that trajectory continue in other parts of the world. And it's unfortunate that it took something like this, such an just invasive action on the part of somebody who holds a ranking of power within a sport to do that. But I think that it opens up a larger discussion that this was something that was seen by millions of people. Imagine all the incidences that aren't reported and don't have the evidence to back up the claim, like a video of somebody actually doing it on such a large world stage. And I think that's what makes this movement so important, is because just like the Me Too movement here, where you had women in a position of power, Hollywood stars and A-list actresses speaking out about their own experiences at the hands of men who determine their career and awards they were able to get and things like that. There are a lot of women who aren't in a position to speak out on things that have happened to them, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And I think that the more that we have these conversations, the more that we're open and transparent that this happens to all women. And I believe it's the responsibility of women who have a platform and have a safe, and I use that word loosely because I think that whenever you speak out about, sexist and just misogynistic and just impulse driven actions on the behalf of men, um and women sometimes, women on women crime happens as well. So I don't want to just single out men. There's always backlash and there's always that narrative that you're lying and you're looking for this, a payday or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that is protected. I don't think you're protected from that, regardless of where you are in the hierarchy of society. But I do think that it is still, again, safer being, used loosely for women who are in positions of power themselves to speak out about their own stories, to make it hopefully easier for the women that come after them and the women that exist in the world that they exist in now currently, who don't have that same safeguard, to speak out about their own experiences and hopefully just change the workplace environment across a bunch of different types of workplaces in this world, and just make it safer for women to work and to do their jobs and to not have to worry about all the other things that go on when you're a woman, especially a woman in a male driven industry or industries. And I just think that it's so important that we continue having these conversations. So, congratulations, well deserved.
Very well said. I really can't add too much to what you just said because it's everything I would have said. But congratulations to her. She definitely deserves that award. And especially when you're put in these positions that you obviously didn't choose. And it's
Mhm.
not even fair that you have to speak up and say the things that you do, but to speak up in the way that she did and create what she did, create that moment and that change that she did. She definitely deserves that award. And so do so many people, they deserve the recognition for changing, a sport, things that are going on behind the sport, things that are going on around the sport that shouldn't, and really standing up and making that change for players
Absolutely.
that are currently there and players to come. So definitely, my hats off to her and everybody who is in that fight. But
Absolutely.
changing gears, in
Yeah.
a huge way,
We're gonna
Halloween's
have
around the
some fun.
corner. Yeah.
Yes, Halloween is around the corner. Literally, it's on Thursday, which kind of sucks because I've seen people celebrating this weekend, and I'm just like, this feels like the longest Halloween ever because of where it falls in the week. It's like you're celebrating either the weekend before, the weekend after. It's just a lot going on. But we wanted to end the show on a high note by sharing our favorite Halloween costumes ever. And obviously, we're not going to give away our costumes this Halloween. You're just going to have to wait and see what that looks like. Tune into our individual social medias. Well, Alicia's, I don't think I'm dressing up this year. I got to go to work. So, like, I don't, unless we're going to do something at the studio, keep it posted. I'll dress up as a sad Yankees fan. Maybe that's what I'll do. But, Alicia, what is your favorite Halloween costume ever?
My favorite Halloween costume, I love the movie Friday, and obviously everyone says bye Felicia.
Uh
And so
huh.
I was Felicia for Halloween one year.
Oh, my God.
And let me tell you, and listen, the actor who played Felicia, Angela Mean, she actually, like, underneath my post said that
I
it was
see
hilarious,
it.
so got the stamp of approval, but it was one of the easiest costumes I've ever had. I literally just found, the same stuff she was wearing, did a braid out, and my hair was banging afterwards after I took the braids out too, by the way, so it was like a good hairstyle too. But, yeah, it was funny because there were people that really got it and they were on the floor laughing, and then there were people like, "Alicia, what's going on today?" Because I was in my office at the time.
Like, are you
So
good? Do you need to talk? Like,
right,
yeah,
like, "Is everything okay?"
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but the
That's
ones who
funny.
got it, and I absolutely love doing it because love her character. I actually think they should do a reboot, kind of just looking at her character because
Mhm.
I think it could be really cool, like seeing like how she came up, how she got
Well,
to where she
listen.
was in the movie, and maybe like how she turned her life around or whatever the case may be moving forward. But yeah, just love doing that. I know that was a lot. That was a lot,
From
but
Bye
I love that
Felicia to
costume.
Hi Felicia. If you need someone to play the younger version, look no further
Listen,
than your girl right here. All
I'm
right. That
ready.
was your casting card
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
ready.
I love that. Mine is when I was working at the radio station. I was working at iHeartRadio at the time, and we did a costume contest at work. And obviously, it being music, everyone would come in. We were supposed to come in dressed as their favorite musical artist or one of their favorite musical artists. And everybody knows from her fashion to her music, Aaliyah is like my biggest inspiration, one of my biggest inspirations. Rest in peace. So
Okay,
this is
Ashley,
mine. my mom
that is
actually
spot
made this
on.
choker. My mom made the choker, she made the belt. I got this like bedazzled bra off of Etsy. And that's the photographer at iHeartRadio doing the cover for me, like the cover album or whatever. I felt so cool. I watched a tutorial on YouTube to get her makeup just right. I drew the mole on my face that she has. But I was like, oh my God, like I feel like Aaliyah. This was like my favorite Halloween costume. I really committed. I've never committed to a costume as hard as I did with this one right here. The only thing I should have done was I should have figured out like her dance moves and try again and like done like a video. I didn't do all that, but this was like my favorite costume. It was a joint effort. My mom made like the pieces and it was cool. And then the cover, it was great. Rest in peace to her. One of my favorites of all time for sure.
Rest in peace to her, and also shout out to your mom for making part of the costume, and
I
it matched
know.
perfectly with what you got.
Perfectly.
I mean, perfectly. She
When I tell
meticulously
you
put
she
that
made that the
together.
morning of, I was like, "Dang, like,
Let's
mom
go,
really
mom.
can do everything." Like,
I love it.
it's crazy. Listen,
No, that was good.
we may have a follow-up to Alicia's costume next show, so make sure you are keeping it locked till we need to talk because you're not gonna wanna miss what she was wearing this Halloween. Um, I know Emma, work on that. Make sure we have that ready to go in the show opening because I know everyone's gonna wanna go ahead and see this. But if you want to get a sneak peek of that beforehand, make sure you're following Alicia on social media. Here's all her info. Here's my info. Here's the show's info. And as always, turn those notifications up. Like and subscribe to our YouTube page so you can see all the content, including Alicia's amazing interview in its full totality. And if you're more of a podcast listener, the QR code at the end of the show has got you covered. Scan that and we will pop up wherever you get your pods. Until next week, when we see what Alicia was for Halloween, this has been We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. Bye, guys. Be safe. Happy Halloween.
See you next week.